My husband expected gourmet meals daily. I started cooking for myself only, and he lives on cereal now. The pan is still sizzling when he walks into the kitchen and says, like he's reviewing a restaurant, "Is that all?" And something in my chest goes cold in a way that makes the room feel suddenly too bright. I'm standing over the stove with my hair shoved into a clip, sleeves rolled up, hands smelling like garlic and lemon, and I've been on my feet since 5:30. The chicken is browning perfectly. The potatoes are crisping in the oven. The salad is already dressed because I learned the hard way that if it's not ready the second he sits down, he'll start making little noises of disappointment. I don't turn around at first because I'm afraid if I do, I'll show my face, and my face will give away the thing I'm trying not to admit, that I hate him in this moment. Not in a dramatic movie way, in a quiet, tired way that feels like the end of something. He leans against the counter behind me and taps his fingers like he's bored. "Babe," he says, dragging the word out. "I thought you were doing that thing. The sauce. You know, the one you did last week." I finally look at him, and my eyes catch on the details that make me want to scream. He's already changed into comfortable clothes. He's holding his phone, thumb scrolling like this is all happening around him and not because of him. He hasn't asked how my day was. He hasn't offered to help. He hasn't even said it smells good. He just walked in and assessed my effort like it was an obligation I'm failing. My hands tighten around the tongs until they hurt. "It's chicken," I say, and my voice is too flat to be normal. "With potatoes and salad." He makes a face, small, quick, like he doesn't think I'll notice. "Okay," he says. "I just thought we were doing like proper dinner, not basic." It was a Tuesday night about 3 years ago when this dynamic first showed up in a way I couldn't ignore, and it's almost funny now how small it seemed at the time. We'd been married 6 months. I'd come home from work late because a client meeting ran over, and I stopped at the grocery store on the way because we had nothing in the fridge besides condiments and the sad remains of a bag of spinach. I made pasta with a simple tomato sauce, tossed in some basil, grated fresh Parmesan, lit a candle because I thought it might make the cramped apartment feel nicer. I remember feeling proud of myself for still making something warm even though I was exhausted. He took one bite, chewed slowly, and said, "My mom used to make hers from scratch." "No, thank you. No, I missed you." Just that. I laughed like it was a joke and said, "Well, your mom had more time than I do." He shrugged and said, "Yeah, but it's not hard if you actually care." I should have clocked it then. I should have heard the warning bell in that sentence, "if you actually care," because that became his favorite weapon. It wasn't that he wanted certain food. It was that he tied it to love. If I didn't cook the way he wanted, it meant I didn't care about him. If I didn't plan meals, I wasn't invested in our home. If I wasn't excited about making dinner, I was letting myself go. The bar kept moving, and somehow it always landed on my shoulders. My husband's name is Ryan. He's not a monster. That's part of what made it so confusing for so long. He's not the guy who screams or hits or throws things. He's the guy who smiles at neighbors, who tips well at restaurants, who posts photos of us on social media with captions like "blessed." He'll hug me in public and tell people I'm amazing. But inside the house, when no one's watching, he has this quiet entitlement that leaks into everything. It's in the way he leaves his dishes next to the sink instead of in it. In the way he'll step over laundry on the floor like it's invisible. In the way he'll say, "We need groceries," like groceries appear because the household fairy hears him. Cooking was the easiest place for him to show it because it's daily. It's repetitive. It's something you can critique without sounding like a villain because everyone has opinions about food. At first, I try to make it fun. I like cooking genuinely. I grew up watching my grandma cook, tasting sauces, learning how a little acid can change everything. When Ryan and I were dating, I'd cook for him sometimes, and he'd act impressed. He'd say things like, "You're so talented," and I'd glow because who doesn't like feeling appreciated? The problem is, once we got married, the compliments turned into expectations. It started subtle. If I made something simple, scrambled eggs, sandwiches, he'd say, "We can't live on this." If I made something more involved, he'd eat and then casually say, "Next time, you should add," like I'd ask for notes. If I followed a recipe and it wasn't perfect, he'd say, "Did you even taste it?" If I asked him to cook, he'd laugh and say, You're better at it. Why would I mess it up? Like competence is a trap you fall into and then can't climb out of. The worst part was the timing. Ryan worked from home. I don't. I leave the house in the morning, commute, deal with people all day, come home drained. Ryan's day is real work. I'm not dismissing that, but it's different. He has breaks. He can throw laundry in during a meeting. He can start dinner earlier. He can exist in the house all day and still somehow act like the house is my responsibility because I'm the wife. He never said it outright, but it lived in his assumptions. At one point, he started sending me recipes. Not, hey, this looks good. Want to try it together? Just links. Screenshots. This could be nice. We should eat like this. He'd forward videos of women making elaborate meals with captions like goals. One night, I came home and found a printed recipe on the counter. Printed, like a homework assignment. I thought you might want to make this week, he said, casually sitting on the couch with the TV on. I laughed, because sometimes laughter is the only thing between you and losing your mind. Do you want to make it? I asked. He didn't even look away from the screen. I don't know how, he said. Besides, you like cooking? That sentence, you like cooking, became his shield. It didn't matter that I liked it in a voluntary, creative way, not as a daily unpaid service with performance reviews. It didn't matter that liking something doesn't mean you want it to be your sole responsibility forever. He'd say, but you like it, the way someone says, but you're good at it, as if that's the end of the conversation. I try to communicate. I really did. I'd say, hey, it hurts when you criticize my cooking. I'm trying. He'd say, I'm just being honest. I'd say, can we share cooking? He'd say, sure, and then do it once, badly, and act like he'd proved the point that I should handle it. I'd ask him to at least handle dishes if I cooked. He'd do them for 2 days, then forget. Then suddenly it was my responsibility again because I couldn't stand the mess. Sometimes I'd think, maybe I'm overreacting. It's just food. But it was never just food. It was the way he spoke to me about it. The way he expected it. The way he treated my effort like a baseline instead of a gift. The way he'd come home from the gym and ask, what's for dinner? Without even saying hi, like I was a vending machine he could shake until a meal fell out. The moment it really clicked for me was at a dinner with friends. One of our friends, Marco, mentioned he'd been learning to cook to help his partner, and Ryan laughed and said, I don't have to cook. My wife spoils me. He said it like a brag, like I was proof of his good fortune. Everyone laughed politely. I smiled too, because that's what you do when you're trying not to make a scene. But inside, something shriveled, because spoiling implies choice. Spoiling implies I'm doing extra, not fulfilling a requirement. That night, after everyone left, I said, please don't talk about me like that. Ryan looked genuinely confused. Like what, he asked. Like I'm here to spoil you. I said. Like cooking for you is my job. He scoffed. It's not that deep, he said. God, you always make things into a thing. That sentence, you always make things into a thing, was his other favorite weapon. It meant, stop asking for respect, because it inconveniences me. I wish I could say I had one dramatic breaking point. I didn't. I had a slow buildup of small humiliations. A plate pushed away with a sigh. A comment about how real women know how to cook. A joke about how I'd starve him if he left me in charge. A passive-aggressive, it's fine, when I didn't have the energy to make something fancy. A constant, low-level sense that I was being graded in my own home. And then there was the day I got sick. It was a cold that turned into a fever, the kind where your skin hurts and your eyes feel too big for your face. I came home early from work and crawled into bed, shaking. Ryan walked in that evening, saw me under the covers, and said, You're in bed? Like I betrayed him personally. He croaked, I'm sick. He stood there for a second, then said, So what are we doing for dinner? I stared at him, honestly stunned, and said, I don't know. Soup? You can order something. He frowned like I'd suggested we eat off the floor. Order? Again, he said. We've been ordering a lot lately. We hadn't. We'd ordered twice that month. But the way he said it, you'd think I was bankrupting us with laziness. I ended up dragging myself to the kitchen, boiling pasta, because it was the only thing I could manage without thinking. Ryan ate it and said, This is kind of bland, and something inside me just went quiet. like my brain clicked off a switch that had been keeping me compliant. After that, I started paying attention to the pattern beyond food. The way he expected emotional labor too. The way he'd forget his own mother's birthday and then act annoyed when I didn't remind him. The way he'd tell people I was organized, as if it was my personality trait, not the result of me doing all the mental tracking. The way he'd sit back while I hosted, cleaned, planned, and then accept praise like we were a team. The night in the kitchen, the one that started this post, was the night I finally stopped negotiating with myself. Because I realized I could make a perfectly good dinner and he'd still find a way to make me feel small. It wasn't about the sauce. It was about control, about entitlement, about him needing me to prove love through service while he proved love through what exactly? Existing near me? When he said, not basic, something in me just shifted. I turned the stove off. Not dramatically. Just clicked it off. The silence of the burner stopping felt louder than the sizzle. Ryan blinked. "What are you doing?" he asked. I set the tongs down carefully like I was handling something fragile. "I'm done," I said. "With what?" he asked, annoyed already. "With cooking for you like this," I said. My voice was steadier than I expected, which scared me a little. "I'm done being reviewed. I'm done being treated like dinner is a test I keep failing." Ryan laughed once sharp. "Are you serious?" he said. "Yes," I said. He looked at the counter, at the food, then back at me like I'd lost my mind. "So you're just not going to feed your husband?" he asked, and the way he emphasized husband made my skin crawl. "I'm going to feed myself," I said. "You're an adult. You can feed yourself." Ryan's jaw tightened. "This is so dramatic," he said. "All because I said it was basic." "It's not basic," I said, and now my voice had that edge I'd been swallowing for years. "It's dinner. It's a normal dinner. And you walked in here and made me feel like crap about it, because you think you're entitled to gourmet meals like I'm your personal chef." Ryan's face flushed. "I work hard," he snapped. "I deserve to come home to a good meal." I stared at him. "So do I said quietly. He opened his mouth, then shut it. He looked genuinely thrown by the idea that I, too, was a person who got tired and deserved care. Ryan tried to pivot. "Fine," he said, like he was the one making a decision. "If you want to be like this, then don't cook. We'll just order. But don't complain about money." "I'm not ordering for you either," I said. He frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm cooking for myself," I repeated. "I'm buying groceries for myself. I'm making food for myself. If you want to eat with me, you can contribute and you can be grateful. If you want to act like a critic, you can figure out your own dinner." Ryan stared at me like I'd slapped him. "So what? You're going to cook and not make any for me? That's petty." "It's not petty," I said. "It's boundaries." He scoffed. "Oh my God, here we go. Therapy words." I didn't respond. I turned back to the stove, put my portion on a plate, and sat at the table. My hands were shaking slightly, not because I was scared of him physically, but because it felt like stepping off a cliff after standing on the edge for years. Ryan hovered for a minute like he expected me to cave. When I didn't, he grabbed his keys and stormed out. The door slammed hard enough that a picture frame on the hallway wall rattled. I ate my dinner alone at my own table, and it tasted like something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. The next day, Ryan came home with groceries. I knew because I heard the bags thump onto the counter. He stood in the kitchen and called out, "I got cereal," like it was a threat. "Okay," I called back, calm. He walked into the living room, holding a box of cereal, like he was presenting evidence. "So this is what you want?" he asked. "You want us eating like roommates?" I looked up from my laptop. "I want us acting like partners," I said. Ryan's mouth tightened. "Partners cook for each other," he said. "Partners also help," I said. "Partners don't insult each other's effort. Partners don't treat love like a service contract." He rolled his eyes. "You're twisting everything," he muttered. And this is where it got almost comical if it wasn't my life. Ryan lasted 3 days on cereal and frozen pizzas. 3. On day 4, he asked, "Are you making anything?" in this cautious voice like he was approaching a wild animal. "I'm making dinner for myself," I said. "If you want some, you can help." He stared at me like I'd spoken in another language. "Help how?" he asked, genuinely baffled. "Chop vegetables," I said. "Do dishes. Plan a meal. Anything." Ryan huffed and said, "I don't know how to do it like you." I set my knife down and looked at him. "Then learn," I said. He didn't like that answer. For the first time in our marriage, Ryan was faced with the reality that his comfort wasn't guaranteed by my labor, and he handled it like a toddler. He complained to his friends. I know because one of our mutual friends accidentally mentioned, "Ryan said you're on some weird cooking strike," and I laughed so hard I startled myself. Strike. Like cooking was my job, like I was withholding wages. He complained to his mother too, which was predictable. One afternoon his mom called me and said, "Honey, is everything okay? Ryan says you're not feeding him. Not are you happy? Not is my son treating you well? Just concerned that her adult son might have to figure out dinner." I told her, politely, that Ryan was welcome to cook. There was a long pause, and then she said, "Well, he's never been very good at those things." I almost said, "I wonder why," but I didn't have the energy for that war. Weeks went by. I kept cooking for myself. I made meals I actually wanted. I stopped doing the mental gymnastics of predicting what Ryan would criticize. I started enjoying cooking again because it wasn't tied to approval. Ryan ate cereal. He ate takeaway. He microwaved sad frozen meals. Occasionally, he'd try to guilt me by sighing loudly while pouring milk, like I was depriving him of something fundamental. I let him sigh. I stopped reacting. Something interesting happened in that space. I started noticing how much better my evenings felt when I wasn't performing. I get home, change, cook something simple, eat, read, breathe. I wasn't braced for commentary. I wasn't waiting for a verdict. My body relaxed in my own home, which is not something you realize you've been missing until you have it. Ryan, on the other hand, got worse before he got better. He started making little jabs. "Must be nice," he'd say when I sat down with my plate. "Living like a single woman." He tried to frame it as me being selfish instead of him being entitled. He tried to make me feel guilty for not mothering him. And the more he did it, the clearer it became. He didn't miss my cooking. He missed my compliance. One night, about a month into this, he finally snapped. He stood in the kitchen holding a bowl of cereal and said, "This is ridiculous. I didn't marry you to live like this." I looked at him. "You didn't marry me," I said, carefully, "to eat food. You married me to be your partner. And if you did marry me for food, then we have a bigger problem." Ryan's face went red. "So you're punishing me," he said. "I'm protecting myself," I said. He stared at me like he'd never heard that concept applied to a marriage. "From what?" he demanded. "From being worn down," I said. "From being treated like what I do isn't enough. From being made to feel like love is earned by cooking gourmet meals." He opened his mouth, closed it, then said quieter, "I just want to feel cared for." And there it was, the one sentence that almost pulled me back into the old pattern. Because I do care. I wanted to care for him. I just didn't want it to be demanded and measured and criticized. "I want to feel cared for too," I said. "When was the last time you cooked for me? Or asked what I wanted? Or said thank you without adding a critique?" Ryan didn't answer. The silence stretched. His cereal got soggy. He finally set the bowl down like he was exhausted. "I didn't realize you were taking it this way," he muttered, which is as close as Ryan gets to an apology. I didn't jump on it. I didn't soften. I just said, "This is how it's been," and I let that sit. He's still on cereal a lot of nights. He started learning a few basic things: scrambled eggs, pasta, grilled cheese. He complains less, but the entitlement hasn't evaporated overnight. Sometimes he'll watch me cook and say, almost wistfully, "I miss when you used to do those big meals." And I'll say, calmly, "I miss when you used to appreciate me." We're in counseling now, not because cereal fixed our marriage, but because the cereal exposed what was underneath. The imbalance, the assumptions, the way Ryan equated being loved with being served, the way I equated keeping peace with shrinking myself. Some days I'm hopeful. Some days I'm not. Sometimes I look at him and wonder how many other parts of our marriage are built on quiet expectations I've been fulfilling without realizing. Sometimes I feel rage that it took something as simple as me cooking only for myself to force him to see me as a person with limits. Sometimes I feel guilty anyway, because guilt is a habit. But I'll tell you this. The first night I sat down to eat a meal I made for myself, without waiting for his approval, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt like I belonged to myself again. And if he wants a gourmet meal daily, he can learn to make one.